To answer the question, when should children learn to touch type, I want to show you this graph. And I must say straight away, this graph is based on my experience. It's not research or empirical evidence. It's just what I have observed over the years. Obviously, all children mature at different ages, and this is a huge generalization. But given that, down the bottom, I have a timeline. It starts at age 4 when children enter school, and it finishes at 18 when children leave school. And I've graphed some variables, and I'm going to talk you through them. Now, the first one is dexterity, and dexterity is very important when typing. It is the skill performing tasks, particularly with your hands. When children enter school, their dexterity is poor, but as they mature and they develop fine motor skills, it improves. And in my experience, normally by about 14, 15, students are more than capable of becoming excellent typists. So if we didn't look at anything else, we would say, oh, teach children to type around the age of 14, 15. But first of all, let's have a look at the other variables. Pressure of work tends to be quite low in primary school, and then it increases in secondary school, particularly ramping up when they're taking formal exams when they're 16 and 17. Now, cooperation tends to be very high in primary school. Primary students tend to want to please and do as they are asked, less so in secondary school, although it does jump up a little bit for some when they are taking exams because they want some help. But the biggest factor that influences children learning to type and using their typing skills to get better grades is peer pressure. In primary school, peer pressure is not so great, but in secondary school, peer pressure is so much more important than what teachers or parents think of children. I have come across so many students who would benefit greatly by typing but refuse to do so because they don't want to be different from their friends. Now, I've also come across other students that are more than happy to be different and learn to type and really welcome the opportunity of getting better grades through typing. But it's very hard to predict how any one particular teenager will mature. So I want to now consider another factor. When, and this is very relevant in the UK, and it might not be relevant in other countries, but I suspect it is. Now, in the UK, at 11, we go from primary to secondary school. And for students to get the full advantage of typing, they want to be laptop users when they take formal exams. So they want to type rather than handwrite their exams when they're this age. Some schools embrace this and make provision for all students that need it to be laptop users in exams, but many schools don't. Instead, they're very reluctant, and they only allow students to use laptops in exams if they have provided lots of evidence and proof that it's necessary. But if a student enters secondary school with typing as their normal way of working, it makes this process in secondary school much more simple, easy, maybe even automatic. So I would identify a really good time to learn to touch type is at the end of year 5, just before the summer holidays, before children go into year 6. That way they can use the skill in year 6 and they can enter secondary school with typing as their normal way of working. So let me show you what I consider to be the sweet spot. Now, not all children can learn in primary school. Maybe you've got a 12, 13-year-old child and you think, well, I missed that in primary school. That's fine. What I would say the sweet spot is to learn before the pressure of work gets much higher. Now, once children in the UK start their GCSE and A-level courses, they need to spend their time learning the subject and learning exam pressure, and they don't have the time to devote to doing all the practice necessary to be a proficient touch typist. So in an ideal world, I would say between 10 and 14 is the sweet spot to learn to touch type. Now, some parents might say, well, I'd rather start earlier. And for some, that works very well. I've definitely had success stories of helping 7, 8 and 9-year-olds become proficient touch typists. It definitely takes longer because they don't have the dexterity, the concentration, the maturity, but it can be done if there is a need. But I wouldn't suggest you do it if there isn't a need, as in it really hurts the hand to write, or they're just not engaging with handwriting or spelling and they need to touch type. Then absolutely yes. But I've definitely had boys who just hated touch typing and hated their parents for making them do it. And I think probably did more harm than good starting early. And had they waited till they were later, they probably would have got far more benefit. So it's possible to start early, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But if you've got older children who are 15, 16, 17 or older, you haven't missed the boat, but they have to do it quickly. I run remote 1-week touch typing courses that are intensive in school holidays, so students don't have to do them at the same time as doing regular work. So I do run them, and it isn't too late. You can always learn to type. I can teach adults to learn to type, but you have to do it a lot quicker because you don't have the amount of time to invest. Now, I have a track record for teaching typing efficiently, and I've created and will create other videos to pass on what I've learned. But if you're interested in booking on one of my remote typing courses, I'll make sure I put details in the section below. I do hope I've answered this question satisfactorily. If you found this video helpful, please do give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone else who could benefit, because this is information I want to get out. My channel is all about helping students achieve their full potential. So if you're a student or if you support students and you want to help them get better grades, then I would recommend you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button to be informed when I create new videos. Thanks for watching.